Okay, this is our fourth, I believe, video in setting up multiplayer, and previous to this we were able to get something going where we had these different HUD pieces working. We have our main character running around with just the keyboard, and then we can also add in another character with another gamepad or controller, and they can be added in, and we can take up to 4 characters at this point in time. What we need to do now is start to get to a point where we're going to affect our HUDs, so we can adjust the score, we can change the health bars, we can just make a lot of bells and whistles happen for us. So one of the first things we're going to need to do is create some actors, some blueprints that can cause a change in our players. So let's go down here to the content browser. We're going to quickly make some things. I'm going to make a new folder here. This new folder is going to be called User Made, and I usually like to color a lot of these folders that I make. I'm going to use the red that we use for our characters there. And inside of User Made, I'm going to make a new blueprint class. This one's going to be an actor called BP underscore damage. Okay, and I want to make another one. It's another actor. This one's going to be BP, you guessed it, health. Okay, or I could have said heal, but you know, either way. All right, so let's go in here, and we're going to make something that looks like it's going to hurt you. So let's go ahead and add a sphere. Okay, and let's make it kind of a scary color if we can. You know, one thing we can do is we can go into, now we could just use red. We've already made red, so we could do that, and that says danger to most people, but let's do something else. Let's go, I'm gonna go down into the content drawer, and I'm going to see about turning on some more things inside of Unreal Engine. So I went to the settings here in the content drawer, and then I want to go to show engine content. I'm just going to check that. Okay. And when I do that, I'm going to see a few more things that I should be able to work with. Let me see here if I can find laser now. Nope, nothing there. Okay. Let's go back to settings, and let's try developer content. Okay, oh, there's some developer content. Let's try laser again. Okay, I might be spelling it wrong, the way they spell it, but okay. Anyway, inside of a lot of these places, a lot of these other things that don't usually get turned on, there can be other materials, other emitters, other things like that. So I'm going to try and get a hold of those, but may have moved them to a different place. So either way, it's fine. Let's just make this thing look scary in a different way. So we have a red thing here, and hey, what doesn't say you're going to get hurt more than fire? So let's add a particle effect. Okay, we're still doing cascade at this point. I'm going to do fire. And as far as the particle template, I'm going to use, we don't want to use explosion because it just goes off once. So let's do fire. Okay, it looks okay. We probably want it to be a little bit bigger. Okay, nice fireball says you're going to get hurt. And we're also going to need to add a collider. So I'm going to do collision. Let's do a sphere collider. Okay, and I'm going to say sphere collision on that just so I know what that's supposed to do. And then I want to expand it out a good bit. There we go. Okay, so by the time you get close enough to this thing, it will have hurt you. Okay, I'm going to go back to my fire, and I want to make that a little bit bigger. There we go. That's more of a fireball. That looks good. And I want to pull it to the top just a hair. Now, all these things, whenever we put them into the world, something to kind of keep in mind is that we have all this sitting right on the default scene root. So if I was to take this and drag it into my world, let me go ahead and get in here. If I put it in there and I zoom in a little bit, you'll notice the thing is actually halfway in the floor. So what we're going to do to fix that is I'm going to go grab all of these pieces, fire, sphere, sphere collision, and the sphere. I want to hold down shift as I select all those. I'm going to go over here into the main game view, pull these up. So the bottom of the sphere collision is at the very top. This is right here. This is where you could say the top of the default scene root is. And then if we go back into third person map and we look at this, it's already popped up out of the ground. So that way, if we do put this in again, let's grab one here, throw it in up here. It won't sink into the ground. It's not going to be halfway in, halfway out. It'll be kind of floating. I'm also seeing that these are probably a little too big. So what I'm going to do is, with all these three highlighted, I'm going to go ahead and go over to my scaling widget right here. And I'm just going to scale them down a little bit. Okay. I think that looks a little bit better. And I'll bring it down. Now when I hit compile, all the changes have taken effect. And you can see right here, they are a little smaller. They do look like they're maybe a little closer to the ground. Okay, so those are our damage little icons there, our little damage actors. And let's go ahead and make our other ones for health. Okay, now for this one, I want to go a little bit different. I want to use a couple cubes. If you've got like the Polygon prototype pack or something like that, there's already some big green plus symbols you can use in there, which are nice and easy to use. But if you don't have those, you can always just use cube and kind of get it into the shape you want it to be. If you're not able to get the kind of control that you want, up here in the top right corner, you can just turn the snapping of objects right here off, and that'll make it a little smoother for you, so you can get just the shape you want. Okay. So it looks pretty good. I like that. I'm going to duplicate that so I don't have to guess at all the sizes and everything. I'm going to go ahead and rotate it over to 90 degrees, and there is my plus sign. Need these to be green. I've already made a green material from before, so I'm just going to use that. Makes things easy. Okay, and so now I have my little plus there. I am zooming all over this thing. Okay, I got to turn my camera speed down. Another thing we're going to need is a collider, because we're going to need, oh, I don't really need a capsule collider. I wanted a sphere. Let me go ahead and delete that. And we'll do sphere collision. There we go. Okay. Also like to make sure I know which one of these is an actual collider. All right, same thing as before. We want this to be floating off the ground a little bit. So I'm going to grab all three of these, hit shift, go up here to my translate widget and pull this up so the bottom of it is just kind of skimming where the default scene rate should be. One last little touch that always kind of makes these look good is rotating movement. Okay. And this should just rotate without any problem. A lot of times when you hit simulate, just like I did, it may not start spinning here. So that's okay. If you don't see that, once you drag it into the level though, we should see it spin there. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that in. That one is a little bit smaller than my other damage ones, but let me go ahead and hit Alt and I'll copy this thing a couple times. There we go. Now if we go down here, we zoom in, we can kind of see that yeah, we're getting a little bit of interaction with the lights from the bottom. That's okay. I want to leave this as is, and let's hit play. Okay. Now they're a little bit hard to see, so I might make that a little bit bigger. And keep in mind, you don't have to go change each one. Just go back into the actor itself and just extend everything out from here. So I'm going to get this right in the middle. Oh, too big. Okay, I actually liked the size of that, but the problem is as I size these up, so this thing is going to look different as I make it bigger. Yeah, I'll just kind of play with that a little bit if you need to. Let's see how that looks now, though. Okay. It's not much better, but it's okay. We're going to work with that. So next thing we're going to want to do is we need to create an interface. So an interface, I'm not exactly sure why they decided to call them an interface, because it sounds like something that you're going to interact with, which, I mean, that is what we use them for. We use them to interact with things without having to make hard calls to things. That's really what a cast does. When we do a cast to check and see, like, is this the thing that we want to interact with? Then what we're doing is we're kind of coupling those things together. So let me give you an for instance. So if I go into my content drawer here, let me go to let's go into some of this stuff. So like my game mode right here. If we look at the event graph on this one, we end up getting a reference to the HUD right here. We make one right there. We also, I believe, are getting some other references to the spawn class. We're setting some things there. We're creating the widgets, so we're actually making a hard call there too. And if we want to, we can actually see what relationships that particular blueprint has. So if I right click on this and I go into reference viewer. Okay, so see right here, we can see the third person map is connected to the game mode. That's the one that's assigned to it. And then it's also attached to these other things. There's hard references that are being, sorry, not hard calls, hard references that are being made to these other actors. Now, it's possible if we go to our third person character, we might even see more. I believe our third person character does make a few references to other things. So let's take a look here real quick. We have player num, player index. I don't know, let's see. Let's just take a look and see what kind of references are being made here. Oh, it's got a lot because it's related to the two different meshes that it's associated with, all these colors, the inputs, a lot of stuff. And as we add more casts, maybe to enemies or to other objects, this reference list is going to start filling up. And that's going to make this character a lot heavier memory-wise, a lot heavier processing-wise. So the ability to keep this as light as possible and only using these things when we have to is going to help us out a lot. And that's one of the reasons blueprint interfaces exist, just to make it so you can still have these things interact without having to actually make a hard reference, okay, and causing a lot of memory issues. Because keep in mind, we're going to have 4 of these characters on screen. So we just took those references and we multiplied them times 4. So this can get out of hand pretty quickly, especially when your AI or other things in the game start making casts or hard references. So in this case, we just want to watch how we do it. We just want to use it sparingly, use it when we need to. But otherwise, we want to use an interface when we can. So let's go ahead and make one. So we're going to go to content drawer right here. We're going to go back to user made. This isn't necessarily part of Couch Co-op because you can use this in almost everything. We're going to go right click and we're going to go to blueprint down here instead of up here. We're going to go to this blueprint and we're going to go to blueprint interface. Notice it has these little empty nodes right here instead of like what we have up here for blueprint class. We're going to do blueprint interface. We're going to do BPI underscore, let's do adjust health. And really that's what both of these things do. One's going to lower it, one's going to raise it. Okay, so let's go into a blueprint interface and let's take a look at a few things. So first off, we have this function right here. I'm just going to call that adjust health. Okay, and what this means is that we can use this to say, hey, when we call this function, we're going to be adjusting something. We're going to be taking something from something that can hurt our player. And in a lot of cases, this can go back and forth. But in our case, it's going one way. This thing is going to hurt or heal our player. So we're going to give this an output down here. I'm going to go down to this little space down here for details. I'm going to hit this plus, and I'm going to set, I've used adjust health adjustment. This is got to be going in the same direction. Let's do health change. Okay, I think that'll work. And we don't want it to be a Boolean. We want it to be a float because that is how we're working with our health. Okay, so we have health change right there. It is a float. I'm going to go ahead and compile it, save it. And to use this, really all we have to do is go into the things that we want to be able to use it. Thankfully, we have all those things up now. I'm going to go up here to BP third person, and we're going to do this on all the different actors that we want to be able to interact with that particular BPI, that particular blueprint interface. So I'm going to go up in the third person character. I'm going to go to class settings, go over here on the right side. If you scroll down a little bit, we'll see interfaces and then implemented interfaces. We don't currently have any. So I'm going to go to the little drop down, type in BPI, and go away. Don't show us again. Blocked everything. I want to get BPI and adjust health. Okay, so once we do that and I hit compile, look over here on the left side, we should see something pop up. Okay, and if we didn't, here's interfaces right there, just pop it up. There's adjust health. We're going to be able to do some things with that here in just a second. Now, with interfaces, you can just be using the interface, or you can have the interface interact with you. So in this case, what we're going to be doing is we're going to have the interface interact with our player character. So let's go over to our damage and health, and let's get that set up over there. We're going to go to class settings, just like we did in our third person character. Go BPI, just health. Okay, and something we're going to need for this, if we look over here, we see adjust health. If we double click on it, we can see this little function that it allows us to get to. Now, what this wants us to do is whenever we activate this function, it's going to say, hey, how do you want to change health? How do you want to change this number? So what we're going to do is we're going to make a variable over here. We'll call it, well, let's call it health change. Same thing. And we're going to make this a float as well. Okay. And compile it. And since this is our damage, we're going to have this lower the player character's health by, let's say, 0.3. That's essentially like them taking 30% damage. So we're going to take the health change, we're going to drag it in, get that, and attach it right there. Okay. Essentially everything for damage. If we want it to stay, we can just leave this alone. If we need it to disappear after it comes into contact with the player, we would adjust some things here. But for now, for what we want to do, this is fine. Okay, we just leave it like this. Let's go over to the health widget. And same thing, we're going to want to put in the interface. So we're going to go up to the class settings. We're going to go down here to the interfaces. We're going to go to add interface, BPI, adjust health. Okay. And as soon as we compile this, we'll see our interface here. I'll go ahead and double click on that. Same thing here. I want to get a health change. So I'm going to go to the plus and I'm going to do health change. And I want this to be a float as well. I'm going to go ahead and hit compile, drag that in. Whatever the health change is, it's going to be right there. Now I'm realizing right now that I am leaving something out. Whenever I use this, whenever I send this over, this is how much I want the player character's health to change. So in this case, the health is supposed to go up. So I'm going to have this increase by 0.5. That's essentially 50%. It's going to increase the health by 50%. And then on my damage, this would actually increase it by 30%. So what I want to do is I'm going to go in and make that a negative. So that'll make sure that that takes away from our third person character. Okay, so all three of these things have the interface in them now. Okay, so a few things we're going to need to do to make this work the way we want it to. I'm going to go into the variables here and I'm going to make two variables. I'm going to make one called health. Okay, and that one needs to be a float. And then I'm going to do another one, call it max health. Okay, that's a float as well. Now, some of you might think like, well, why do I need max health? If you're gonna, go in here and once you compile everything, the default value is going to be 1. It's not 100, it's not 10, it's 1. Remember, because 1 is 100%. We're dealing with all this in percentage. So with that one being 1, max health being 1, it almost seems like you're doing the same thing twice. Well, health is going to be keeping track of what the current health is. Okay, and max health gives me an idea of how far it should go back up to. So let's say your character got poisoned and their health is dropping, their max health is dropping. You only want the health to be able to fill up to where they currently can fill up to. Or maybe they got something that increases their health by 200%. Well, we want to be able to change that max health. So that's a good idea to always have max health as a variable, so you can change that a little later. So let's get to the fun on this whole thing. And what we're going to do is whenever we come to contact with damage or health, we're going to want to make a change. So with that in mind, what we want to do is a little bit different than when we usually come into contact with somebody else. Now, the way it starts is the same. So we're going to look at the viewport right here. We have this capsule collider around our character. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that capsule collider. And I'm going to type out here on component begin. I can't see that stuff because it's in the way. Let's do begin overlap. That should be enough. There we go. I want to get the one for the capsule component. And where we would usually do a cast right here, we'd usually do cast to whatever. Well, in this case, I've got two things. And in fact, there's going to be multiple things in the level. And if I have to keep casting and casting and casting, that's increasing the hard references that I'm doing. And if I keep going through a chain of casts, that just increases the number of hard references again. So using a blueprint interface will get rid of all of that. We won't have to worry about it. So this is the way we do it. We first check to see, is that actor that we just touched, is it also using the other interface, or the interface that we want to use? So we use does object implement interface. Okay? And we choose the one that we're wanting to use. Currently, BPI adjust health. Okay, and then we'll run a branch off of that. Okay, and of course we can always do other things to check and see, like, is this the right one? Is this the right player index? Is this the right color? Is this do they have a key? All these kind of things. We can still run through those, because once we get to this point, we can still pull off this other actor. We can still access things there. So for instance, if it gets this, we could probably put out the name of the thing that we touched. Okay, so let's just test that out just to see. I'm going to just run that right in there. It's going to get display name. Okay, and let's just play around here a little bit. Okay, so we're going to run up there. It says BP damage up in the top corner, BP damage 2. That one is BP health. That must have been the first one I put out. And that was BP health 2. So see, we're able to interact with these things just because they have the interface on them. And if I go back into my third person character, let's see here. I want to look at the blueprint for it because I want to see the references, reference viewer. Okay, now if you look at this, none of this has added anything more on. You don't see BP damage, you don't see BP health added to this thing. So that means as we keep interacting with things using an interface instead of casts or making hard references in other ways, we're going to save ourselves a lot of memory. So that's going to really help us out later on down the line. Okay, let's do something with this now. All right, instead of doing print string, well, actually, we're probably going to still use that because we're not going to have it change the HUD just yet. We don't want to get too crazy with this. So what we're going to do is we're going to use health right here, okay? And we're going to also get something from adjust health. So what we can do from that is we can call out whenever it's true, we're going to get adjust health. Let's see. Oh, I got to spell it right, of course. Adjust health. There we go. Now these right here, they look like they're going to be the right thing. They do, but in all actuality, they're not. So the way that these look different, we're looking for a message. We're looking for something that sends that across. So what we're wanting to do is get this, basically. We want to get this health change from that other actor. So to do that, I mean, we're seeing it right here. And honestly, we might be able to make this work. Let me see here. No, doesn't really want to do it. So what we want to do instead is we're going to drag off this other actor. Okay. And we're going to do just health. Okay. Now we're going to see message. Now we're going to see it there. Okay. And when that's true, we're going to pull off of this. Okay. And whatever that actor is, whatever they are tied to health change, we're going to be able to use that to either take away or add to our health. So what we're going to do is health change right here. We're going to add it together with health. Okay. Now I know you're thinking like, well, wait, the damage takes away. It's like, that's okay, because we made the damage negative. So it's going to take away from that health. So let's go ahead and move on to the next thing, which is going to be setting the health. We're going to grab that, drag it in, set health. And in this case, we are going to run that right in. And what we're going to do is we'll be able to see that health right there. And we could run a print string at that point. And we can do print string, run the health into that. And then we can have it stay on the screen for just a little bit longer. I'll do 3 seconds. Okay, 4 seconds is fine. And we'll make it, just make it white. That'll make it really different. We have all of our other things on screen showing up as colors. So we'll make that white. And now whenever we have a change of our health, we're going to see that change show up on the screen. So let's go ahead and check this out. Okay, going to go ahead and hit play. Okay, so I'm going to walk up here and you'll notice our health went to 0.7, 0.4. Then I go to a health thing. It went up to 0.5 because we were at 0.4. I went to 0.9, sorry. Now we're at 1.4 and now we're at 1.9. So there's a little bit of an issue. We don't want to go over 100%, not at this point anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in here off of this one. As soon as we get the value that we want, I'm going to put a clamp on. Now what a clamp does is it makes it so, this is going to be for a float. There we go. What this does is it's going to make sure that we don't go over a certain amount or we don't go under a certain amount. So I'm just going to time max health into that. And now when we do this, we should not go under 0. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and effectively kill my character. Not that it does. Oh, it did go to -2. Well, let's see. Yep, -5. All right. We're able to climb up out of that. Let me see. There's 0.5. And it's kind of reporting in a little different way. Actually, might need to go in here and change a few things. 0.5. That one's there. Where did I set my health at here? 1, 1, yep. 0.5, 0.3, yeah. Oh, okay. No, that's actually fine because I'm already thinking about it in percentage wise for the health bar. So that's actually correct. However, my clamp right here is not working because I didn't connect it. All right, there we go. Let's go ahead and run that back again and make sure everything's working the way we want it to. Okay. Actually, I've got a weird thing on the keyboard. There we go. Try it again. Okay, there's 7, 4, 1, 0. Now, no matter how many times I hit this, I'm just going to hit 0. Go up here and touch the health bar, little health pickup. And we should be back up to 100 once I get over there to it. There we go. And that's how we're going to handle that as far as the health and everything. Another nice thing that you can do with this is you can also use it to work kind of like an event dispatcher. So to do that real fast, what I want to do is make a door just really fast. Okay. Blueprint class, actor, let's do interface door. Okay. And I don't have any doors or anything built yet, but hey, we got that trusty, well, actually we have doors already, don't we? Let's see, door. Okay, there's a door. There's a frame. Just got to get them lined up. And this is really just for the purposes of understanding how this whole thing works. So we'll need another blueprint for this one. Although we don't necessarily have to. Okay. Now we probably should. Let me just do that real quick. We'll go back to the content, back to user made. We're going to do another blueprint interface. This one's going to be called BPI_interact. And if you have blueprints that do different things, it's a good idea to often have the different one. Don't just keep running with the same one over and over and over again. So inside this one, all I really want to do is I'm just going to call this function interact. I'm not going to give it an output. I'm not going to give it an input, nothing. It's just going to be called interact. Okay. And one thing I want to do is next to this door, I'm also going to need a button. So I'm going to make a button really fast, just like we've done in the past. Interface button. Okay. And on this one, I'm just going to take a cylinder and we'll squish it down. And then I'm going to put a sphere collider in the middle of it. Okay. And I don't think it's going to let me do much without making this bigger, which is fine. And that's about it. That's about all I'm going to do. But I need to add the interface on. So I'm going to go up here to class setting. I'm going to add BP interact. Okay, I only got 2 so far. Makes things easier. Okay, compile, and then I'm going to go to the door BPI interact interface button interface door. There we go. Same thing here. I'm going to do the interface. So I need to go to class setting. I'm going to go to that BPI interact. Okay. And I need to also add BPI interact to my third person character, which is where I'm at right now. Back to the class settings. Gonna add another one. Nice thing is if you've already got an interface in there, it doesn't bring it up again. So I'm not seeing BPI health again. You'll see BPI interact. Okay, so on this one, I really don't have to do anything for the third person character, but on the others I do. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go to the interface button, and on this one, what we're going to do is we're going to you see interact right here. I'm going to go to the event graph, and notice that makes an event right here. So what this is doing is effectively giving me another point to start things, to trigger things. So first thing I want to do is, yet again, I want to make sure I'm using the same interface. So I'm going to do does implement, well, let's see. Yeah, let's do that. We could do it in a lot of different ways. We already have the collider. Yeah, let's just go with that. So I got that highlighted. I'm just going to do event begin overlap. Okay, there we go. And same thing as before. Does it implement the interface? Does implement interface. This time it's BPI interact. Okay, still doing a branch. Okay, I'm going to drag into there. Okay, and if it does, then what we're going to do is we're going to open up that door. Thing about this is that we do need to have a reference to the door, but we don't have to have it specific to any particular actor. We can have this thing loaded up for anything. So what I'm going to do is just call this target, and I'm just going to make this a generic actor. Okay, just anything that basically has a blueprint is just going to work with this. So if this is all true, what I want to do is I'm going to call the BPI interface for a particular target. So what I want to do is I'm going to drag out on this target, get it, and it has interact on it as well. And I want to make sure I get the message, just like before. Make sure it shows that little envelope there. So what this is going to do is, as soon as my player steps on this button, it's going to run this over here. Actually, anything that has a BPI interact is going to do this, but I can also add a few more checks in there just to make sure. And then it will activate my door. Let me go ahead and get my door built real fast. So there's my door. And I'm going to just do something really quickly. Here's interact. Now I'm going to use that event graph, event start right there. And we're going to do add timeline, just like we usually do with a door. I'm not even going to look at how we're going to get this thing set up. I'm going to bring the door in, add relative rotation, just like we always do. I'll need to go into the timeline, make a new track. We're going to do a float track, swing. We're going to go here, key 0, 0. And I don't really want to wait too long for this thing to open. Let's do 2 seconds. And time is 2, value is 110. Okay, that's maybe going to swing in the wrong direction, but we'll see how it goes. All right, back to our event graph. We have swing right there. We're going to split that struct pin, and I'll put swing down on Z, and that should be everything. Let me go ahead and save everything. We're going to put stuff into the level. Okay, here's my interface button right there, and let me get my door. Okay, so my door is right there, and these don't know anything about each other essentially, but I am going to make this button listen to this door, or this door listen to this button. So I have to click on my door, go over here to the details. There should be a default section. Oh, well, I actually need to be on my button. And then there should be a default section. Let's see here. Am I looking the wrong one? Let's see, interact. There's a button. Okay, target. Oh, there's my issue. I don't have an instance editable. I'm a silly. Okay, here we go. Back to the button. There it is. Target. Good. Okay. And then I really could have this do almost anything, but the button's listening and the button's trying, or the door's listening, the door is trying to do something. So I want to make sure interface door. There, that works. And let's see what that looks like whenever we get over there. Okay. Whoop, pressing on the wrong keys. Okay. Whoa, it's freaking out. All right, so I think you guys might know what I did wrong there. Instead of doing set, I did add, because like I said, I'm a silly. Okay, let's do set relative, I mean it, I'm typing in caps. Set relative rotation, there we go. And I'm gonna split that out, put that down there. I don't want that. And that's probably going to work a little better. All right, back in. I'll walk over to that thing. There it is. Hey, look like that. That's what we want. So yet again, we were able to do this no event dispatcher, which is going to need a hard check with a specific type of blueprint. With this one, we just said, hey, have it go over to the door. I could also set several other targets. Like, it doesn't just have to be the door. I could say like, hey, when you interact with this, turn these fireworks on, make these lasers start moving, have the saw blades start, cutting across the floor. Like, all those things could be targets. I could just have multiple targets in here that this thing would need to interact with. So, but I get to decide what they are. I don't have to set them up ahead of time in this space. So, nice, easy way to kind of bring everything together. This ended up being 40 minutes, which is way more than I wanted it to be. But we went through a lot of different stuff. So hopefully this will help you out. And we'll get into the HUD in the next video. We're going to start changing that HUD.